Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 252. I am your host, Keith Andrew, along here with Debra East, and I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
I am glad to be here, and I look forward to talking to you.
No, absolutely. Starting off, we're going to ask some easy questions and a couple hard-hitting ones. Then we're going to take a commercial break. And then I'm going to pass it to you. You can ask me anything you want. This is your time to promote. Talk about anything you want. Ask me anything you want. Supporting a good cause, making a new friend out of it. And starting off, what can you tell us about yourself?
Well, my name is Debra Jayne East. I come from North Carolina, and I've lived there for most of my life. I've got three children, my daughter Misty, my son Mark, and Stephen. And right now, I'm retired, and one of the things that I've always loved to do is write. And coming from a history of writers, one of my relatives was Violet Martin, and she wrote a series of plays and stuff back in Britain in the 1800s. I found out that I always liked to write down poetry when I was little. I was sort of bashful, if you can believe that. I mean, now I'm a radio show and I talk to everybody, but I used to be very shy, and I found out that writing poetry was like a balm to my soul. It helped me with reflecting on life and sharing my thoughts and feelings. So when I retired, I thought to myself, I should write a book. And then I thought, oh, you can't write a book. You don't even know how to use Microsoft Word. But I had surgery. I was in the hospital. And during that surgery, I actually died. I had a near-death experience. And one of the things that I remember saying is, could you let me stay here just a little while longer? And I knew I had lots of things that I hadn't accomplished in my life. And so writing was one of them. So in 6 months, I had a book, a paranormal romance called Radiance, Love After Death. I just knew it was going to be published. I don't know how. I call it the knowing, where something is just a fact inside your heart. And I sent off, to 9 different publishers. And within 2 months, a UPS pulled up in my front yard with a package, and they said, we have accepted your book for publication. So I thought, wow, this is really cool. I followed my heart. I did what I wanted to do and what I love to do, and I accomplished that. So that really made a change in how I lived and how I thought about life. I thought, why don't you go and tackle something else that you haven't done? All my kids were grown and had left home. So somehow I got in radio. And my friend who taught me, she said, well, what topic are you interested in? And I said, well, I don't know. How about UFOs? She said, UFOs, are you crazy? And I said, no, it's fascinating. When I was 12 years old, Keith, my family, we were watching TV on Saturday night. It was me and my 3 sisters and my parents. Our dog started barking. So my dad went outside to see what it was. And he ran back in and he said, come out here right now, all of you. I mean, he was just like frantic. Keith, we went outside, and I was 12 years old. I walked to the edge of the veranda, and I looked up in the sky, and there was a saucer-shaped object the size of a tractor trailer, about a half-mile away, and it was silver. The moon was shining, so you could see stuff really good, and it had a row of lights down the middle of it that were rotating. And at first, none of us said anything because, this was in the country. Nobody had ever seen anything like that. We didn't have the internet, so we didn't read about UFOs on there. And our dog was still looking up and barking the whole time, just looking up in the sky and barking at it. It slowly came towards our house, and then it moved to the east of us, and it started slowly going out of our property towards the highway. And our dog followed it all the way out there barking. So I told my dad, I said, "What was that?" He said, "It's called a UFO." And I said, "Well, we should call the police or call somebody." And my dad said, "We can't do that because they will think we are crazy." And that is a statement that my parents said that still stays with me to this day. That is why I do UFO radio, because people still think you're crazy if you write about this stuff, but you should never be persecuted or made fun of when you tell the truth.
No, absolutely. I have a couple experiences like that. My sister, when we first moved here about 80, we moved in about 80, I was born in 88, but my sister, well, let me rephrase that. I was born in 88, we moved in 87. My sister was standing in front of the window. Can't remember, it was either like in the early 90s, and this bright blue light came in the window and was spinning.
Wow.
And then it was gone. My brother was driving with his friend, and he saw two saucers high in the sky. One time, this really stands out for me because it really scared the shit out of me. It was about Saturday night. It was about almost 8 or 9 at night. And my brother was in the bathroom shaving his beard, and I thought it was an airplane heading towards my house. Everything was so think of the loudest sound, but magnified. Everything was shaking, the lights were blinking, and I was banging at the bathroom door. And I was like, "Oh God!" He came out at the same time. The door opened and stopped. Like, you didn't hear anything. You hear what? But I have dreams of UFOs, actually talking to people from space. But yeah. I don't know if that's real or if it's just my imagination. But it seems real enough. Makes my freaking heart race.
It does. There's millions of UFO reports every day, and with our technology that we have today, like cell phones and video cameras, they get lots of images. You can go on YouTube and literally find millions of photographs and pictures. And there's also people who have been abducted. If only one of these stories is true, then we are not alone. And the odds of millions of reports being false, that's almost, you can't even go there. The odds of that are almost zero. So we are not alone. We have never been alone. But this idea is not shocking to everyone. There are people like presidents, like President Jimmy Carter saw a UFO, astronaut Edgar Mitchell believed in extraterrestrials. He was the 6th astronaut on the moon. Gordon Cooper, another astronaut. Paul Hellyer, who is the former Minister of Defense in Canada. There are literally thousands and thousands of well-recognized people who have evidence, photographs, testimony, radar sightings of UFOs. And so I feel like now I'm in good company. So,
well, a couple of things on that subject. One, if you saw a battleship, they're sending out signals in space, and Stephen Hawking says, basically, if they ever came here, we would be the Indians, Native Americans, and they would be Columbus. What do you like Columbus meaning the Indians?
Yeah. He's right. Their technology is so far in advance of ours. One of the things that we learned from Roswell is the name of the town that a UFO crashed in the late 40s, and they recovered this alien craft. And what they did, they used reverse technology, which only means they sort of disassembled the object and taught themselves what each piece did until they understood how it worked. It's called reverse technology. They use this to understand UFOs. Our country has actually built their own UFOs. Germany built their own UFOs. They were in a race with the United States to try to get this technology for themselves. This type of proof is, it should be accepted, but our government and governments of other countries suppress this information because the technology far advances whoever has it over any other country. I mean, they can shoot lasers. Part of the things that we got from them, Keith, is optic fibers. One of the first UFO crafts had optic fibers in it. That's where we got that information. They also have invisibility cloaks. They have lasers. They have several things that we have integrated into our society. And what that means for the United States is, number one, they own the technology, the patent. They can use that. The United States wants to be a superpower. They want world dominance over Russia, China, all these other countries. So they've suppressed that from the people. And it's really harmed us because they have the information for zero energy, which means we could travel, we could fuel things, and it wouldn't cost us anything. Can you imagine how good that would be, Keith, not to have to pay a light bill?
Yeah, you don't have to rely on those people in the West.
Yes. So it's sad. It's sad that that has happened. But I will say that in this day and time, there are more and more people coming forward. I host a radio show called Notes from the Underground on PSN, and we have lots of listeners. In fact, I think we've got about 5 or 6 UFO-related shows. People are interested in this, and more videos, more imagery. We recently had a man in Canada by the name of Victor Vigorani. Okay, he was a newspaper owner and a ufologist, which is just somebody who studies UFOs. He had written a couple of books about UFOs. He sent an inquiry to NORAD, which is Canada's, it's like their Department of Defense. And he accidentally hit on something that he wasn't supposed to. He received documents that they should have kept. It was coded under not UFOs, but tracking numbers.
Right.
And what he received from NORAD, I think he received 26 pages, and in this information, it clearly stated, in the past 5 years, Canada has had 2,000 UFOs come into their airspace. 75 of the UFOs were intercepted. It also had in there a letter from the United States. The letter said, we recommend you do like we do, our military does here in America. We downplay every UFO sighting. We don't put anything out about it. We don't tell them that it's real because it's a security issue. That's our recommendation.
It's not a security issue. It's all those religion fanatics. They're getting crazy.
What they did then is, now here's the kicker. They found out that Victor had sent for that information. They sent Victor a letter saying, basically, you got this information by mistake. You can't reveal any of it. If you speak about it publicly or let it get out, we will extradite you to the United States, and we will persecute you for treason or whatever we can do, because this is a high security risk. So, Keith, you know what this man did? He looks 80. I don't know how old he is. He held up these folders. He said, I have 11 reports, and it has all their information. He says, I dare the United States to come and arrest me. So he gave a copy of these papers to every person on the board, which was people like Stephen Bassett, who is a UFO lobbyist in Washington, Stanton Friedman, a very well-known ufologist, Paul Hellyer from Canada, several others. He gave the information to them. So just once again, we already know that we're not alone, but we are suffering from a government that wants to monopolize the information and basically keep the United States in poverty by not allowing us to use the technology to help ourselves. They want to use it for war.
Yep.
We just want to use it to be able to travel and not have a light bill. You know, some seniors have to pick between paying their light bill and getting groceries. I mean, that's so sad because they can't afford the light bill. So I feel like my topic is not so crazy as some people might think, and it's a legacy I want to leave behind for my grandchildren, that I cared enough to stand for what I believed in.
It was George Cole. Two things I want to bring up. The reason I started to laugh, smile actually, is because I just remembered what George Collins said. It's the American dream, but you have to be asleep to imagine it.
Mm-hmm.
But and the other thing is, people like making war, and if that technology got into the wrong hands with the Muslims, some religious fanatics, or whatever people you want to mention, we would kill each other off faster. Number one, and number two, if aliens really wanted to attack us, they would have done it already.
Right.
They're already here. I don't see why they're taking their time. But the truth is, we're killing each other off over stupid ass shit like robbery and rape and murder and all this.
And nuclear bombs that, like Fukushima, that is killing our oceans. We have predictions that in about 30 years that every piece of, like every fish, every bit of food that comes out of the ocean will be toxic. And that's feeding a lot of people. So imagine, because we wouldn't release this technology, we used other things, and it's killing our planet. And so it's a very serious thing, but I hope through radio shows like mine and many others and people who put out information like you, I hope we can make a difference, and I think that we are.
It's true, and like I was saying, if they really wanted to wipe out the human race, they would have done it already. But like I said, we're killing each other off over, okay, I mentioned rape, but that's different. But, robberies and war especially. So we're basically ends to them, and we're entertainment to them.
Yeah, you're right on one level. They are amused with us because, number one, they are able to come in our homes uninvited. And what they do is, if you've ever heard someone's story that was abducted, they usually take them in their sleep, and they take them out of the environment either by levitating us out of the room or some other means. And on the women, what they do is they'll do an examination, and sometimes they even take eggs out of their ovaries. For men, they also take sperm samples. They do a very invasive a procedure. And many of the men who have talked to me, this is very honest. They are like rape victims. One man told me, he said, I understand now why women cannot get over rape. He said, I feel so violated. I'm ashamed to talk about this, and especially since it was something extraterrestrial. But one of the things that they want from us, Keith, is they are doing a genetics experiment with humanity. Some of their races are dying out, and they are doing experiments with them and us in creating a hybrid. And so that's what they're doing. But you know what? Nobody has the right to come in your home and to take you without your permission. Nobody. So I'm not one of those people who believes the Space Brothers are here to help us, because that's not really helping us. That's an invasion of our privacy. And if they wanted to help, then why couldn't they do something with Fukushima? Or why couldn't they give us a cure for cancer? So I really look at the majority of the aliens as not really caring about us or wanting to do anything to help our society.
No, absolutely. That's another thing. Even if they decide to help us, there's always going to be people who are going to rely on them for every little thing, number one. But what about this story a couple years ago? I don't know if you heard it, but we sent out a radio signal in space, and I guess we received something that took 1,000 years, and we got it. We didn't know what it meant, but we got a signal back. But and as fast as it came out, it was on for 24 hours, and now it said they took it down. There's no record of it. But I don't know. It's kind of like other countries tell you the truth. Yeah, there is life in space.
Yes, there is.
Are they blue furry people? No. Are they green little men? No. Because God created everything. And not to get religious, but if it's meant to happen, then it will. I really hate that saying, I really do. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But, it is what it is. But we're going to take a quick commercial break.
Okay.
Now, for this segment of the show, and actually you should be a guest on this. The first thing I want to promote is CelebrityVM.com. And for people who want to know what CelebrityVM.com, you can go to CelebrityVM.com or go to the KeithAndrewNetWork.com, and there's a little link there on my page that tells you what about it. So for a perfect example, you came across my profile and you say, hey, I'm a fan of your talk show. Can I have a shout out? Or today's my daughter's birthday, today's my son's birthday, my husband's getting married. Can you give you a shout out? Or whatever you want me to say for $20, that's how much I charge, $20. I get to say whatever you want as long as it's not provocative. And there's other celebrities, hundreds of celebrities, from WWE, TNA Wrestling, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, Star Trek, Star Wars, and there's more going every day. So that's CelebrityVM.com. Also, the following's brought to you by WooQuate. WooQuate has about between 4 to 5 different options, and it starts off with different payments. And you pay a payment, and you can make it once a month for an ongoing thing. And WooQuate will send you a box with 4 to 5 different items. In one box, one subscription has all t-shirts. The other one has shot glasses. The other one has this other things. But if you get a WooQuate box, you get a shirt, a toy, a comic book. It's a whole big thing. It's really nice. So go to WooQuate.com. And finally, for people who like Target, for a limited time from July 31st until the 6th of August, for kids going back to school, you can get, If you spend $50 on clothes and shoes for your kids, you save $10. For boys' uniforms, you get buy one, get one 60% off. For men who work out, you save 25%. And jean backpacks, they're on sale, you get 10% off. And also, the following's brought to you by the KeithAndrewNetWork fan page. Like it, share it. I'm trying to get 1,000 likes. So if you can help me out, I appreciate it. But going back to the show, and I'm going to pass it to you now, going on a different subject, is, what can people say about your talk show? You're very interested and hell-bent on aliens, and the truth is there is a life in space, and there's pretty much here's a perfect example. Next time someone says there's no life in space, he doesn't backhand them because they're an idiot. Because Mars, look at Mars. They found a skeleton, a fossilized skeleton of a spider, number one. Mm-hmm. They found traces of water, number two. Right. And they're talking about whatever the word is, turning Mars into a second Earth and putting homes on the moon. Plus, I don't know if you know about this, and this is the last thing about this, then I'll pass it to you. They found about 1,000 light years away, they found a second Earth. They're calling it Earth 2. With the same water, same oxygen, and it's pretty interesting, I'm curious, what's over there. When he saw the UFO, I would have said, take me, I'm so tired of the Republicans, Democrats, ISIS, to get me out of this insane asylum. I would rather be with the aliens than doing with this hell.
Well, that's funny, but I have to tell you, there's one alien race that are cannibals, so I don't know if you would want to go with them. They actually, they consume human flesh, and that might seem like just a crazy idea, but you have to remember that humanity has had cannibals too.
Yep.
And there was even an article 2 weeks ago about a man that had ate people. They found the bones, they found, stuff in his refrigerator. Jeffrey Dahmer was a cannibal. So that's not totally out of the picture, but this will come as a surprise to you because it was me. We actually have already been on Mars. There was a secret space program, and this got started. If you've ever heard of Nikola Tesla, he was an inventor who came up with the coil that we use in our radios today. When he died, our government went and confiscated all of his patents and his information and his devices that he had been working on. One of those was a teleportation device, and the other was a type of laser. Some people who wanted to make it sound horrible called it the death ray. Well, that's not what it was. It is all based on scientific evidence, and what happened was when our scientists got a hold of it, they developed it. It was weaponized within 48 hours. They used this to create what they called a jump room. Okay, the first experiments came through Operation Pegasus. Okay, the way I know about this is Andrew Basiago, who is a lawyer here in Washington, was in that program, and he has been speaking about it for years. Well, recently, William Whitecrow, who is another person that was in Project Pegasus that went to Mars, came forward and is telling his stuff. There's 2 or 3 other people, and they actually have proof. When Andrew Basiago went back in time to President Lincoln's speech, a photographer took a photograph of him standing in the crowd as a boy. So that's his evidence, okay? What happened, what they did with Mars after they perfected the teleportation device, they sent people to Mars. Okay, this is what's called now a breakaway civilization. Large numbers of people are there. The atmosphere is breathable, but it's, I know all of the people that have been sent there from Earth are living underground, because at night, because we're, so far away from the sun, the temperature gets a couple hundred degrees below.
Right.
Right, so they live underground. There's whole societies up there of humanity. This information has been kept from us, and NASA has been the main ones who send us false information. I don't know if you've ever saw any of their live news feeds, but they'll rapidly shut it off or say we're having technical difficulty, because there's probably 200 videos of UFOs close to, our space station up there. And, they come just 2 weeks ago, a huge UFO was coming out from our atmosphere. But see, we have people that follow that live feed, and they grabbed it off of there before NASA could delete it. Ken Johnston, who was an engineer who worked for NASA, part of his job was to take their photographs and archive them and, send out some to press and everything. They actually pay people to blur the images that they get. They'll blur out, like one of the things they blurred off of the image of Mars was trees. There's trees on there. There's water. The big face on Mars, have you saw that? That's real. That's real. All of these things NASA has hidden from us, but Keith, this is what happened. When the supervisor told him to get rid of the photographs, he spoke up and he said, "No, I don't want to do that, because the taxpayers have paid for these photographs, and I think we ought to keep them to show to them." And his supervisor said, "No, get rid of all of them." Well, guess what? He didn't. He didn't. He saved some of the photographs that have all of this information in it, the real images. Yes, there's trees on Mars, all of this stuff. But what happens is they get rid of you, they fire you, or they say you made it up, you're crazy. They pay people to give disinformation and criticize you. They'll say, "Oh, well, you have a mental problem." So they have a campaign to deny the truth, and they do that actively.
And they kill you, too.
Oh, you're exactly right. Boy, you're really up to date on all this stuff. You could be a ufologist. They kill you. Phil Schneider was killed. And how we know he was killed, he had received threats, and he spoke live on a radio show. And he said, "If anything happens to me, just know I did not commit suicide. I did not commit suicide. If something happens to me, they killed me." Well, later on they found him. He had, I think, a wire around his neck and a couple of other and a shotgun blast to his body. Well, he couldn't have done these things. They said that it was suicide, but all of his injuries, there was no way that he could shoot himself in the back of the head,
No, it's impossible.
Impossible. So yes, they do kill people. Forrestal, who worked for the White House.
Marilyn Monroe, then the Kennedys killed.
Yes, because JFK was going to reveal that UFOs were real, and she knew that. She was going to leak that information. If you don't believe that they'll hurt you, then just go out in public and start talking about confidential things. You'll get a little visit from the men in black. Lots of people do.
The government doesn't give a shit about people. They just do whatever they want. And, their excuse would be like, well, one less person. There's always got to be billions of people. So what's one person matter? That's why I don't like people.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because one of their agenda is to depopulize because we have so many people, it's hard to feed everyone. Um, I guess you're wondering why the United States is allowing GMOs because other countries have banned them. It does cause cancer, birth defects. Babies are being born with small heads and hydrocephaly. But we're still eating that stuff. You know, it's going to kill us. But you know what? Then that's better because, you know, people are having to get on food stamps. They can't afford inflation. It's hard for somebody to live on a few $100s a month. So how do they get out from under this? They get rid of us. We have chemtrails. Do you know about chemtrails?
No.
Okay, chemtrails are, have you ever went outside and you saw lines in the sky, marks from airplanes? They
Yeah.
might call them contrails. Well, chemtrails are chemicals secreted in our atmosphere. And the way they do them, they usually fly back and forwards in a grid, and it'll look like tic-tac-toe a little bit. Well, they are putting in our air poisonous things. They have done samples from some of the fallout. They have found chemicals like lithium. And one of the NASA scientists did say, yes, we do put lithium in the air. We're testing wind currents because that shows up on radar. They are also putting something that is so far advanced, we have not even been able to decipher what it is, but it causes a disease called Morgellons. And in Morgellons victims, they have took some of the fibers that pop out of their skin. They look like tiny little threads. And Joni Mitchell, the famous singer, has it. But these fibers are like alive. If you get one with tweezers and you hold your finger close to it, it will go to your finger. When they did a dissection of it and put it under the microscope, they found out that it had insect DNA, human blood. They found out it had other things. So what this does when we breathe it, our systems, especially the old, the weak, and the young, which is the population, they want to get rid of, you know, a lot of the old people. These fibers grow in your body and they itch, you scratch, you're tired. It's really horrible looking. And they are having a hard time trying to cure people with that. They usually suffer, and some of them have died. All of this comes from chemtrails. It's a totally manufactured disease built by humans. It's also filled with something called nanotechnology, which is small, tiny, microscopic nanobots that can, they're so small a doctor could put one in our bloodstream and it could go. They can direct these nanobots to specific target areas with cancer. They're doing some research on that. But there's a whole lot of stuff going on, Keith, that people have no idea that is going on by our shadow government. So, and now we're on the brink of World War III.
Well, we're in that war, but that's for a different time.
Yeah, so things are sort of chaotic in the United States and the world right now, it seems. So we have people like you and me trying to make a difference. And I just want to know, how long have you been doing radio?
Well, wrapping up, you know, a lot of people wouldn't say, you know, we're at war, but we are at war. And this is exactly why I kind of wish aliens would kill us, but, you know, this is hell. I can't imagine the actual hell being any worse. But, it is what it is. I hate saying that, but it is. But for answer your question, wrapping up, I've been doing this for 3 years. And I suffer from depression, social anxiety, panic attacks, a whole bunch of other disabilities or defects. So this is basically, make a long story short, this is my way of showing people But even though I have an learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into a perfect example for people out there dealing with any types of disabilities and learning disabilities. But you should never give up. And to prove to people you can still amount to something. Now,
I
wrapping up.
love that. I love that. You know what? We need more people like you because all of us have a purpose and we can all amount to something. We just have to choose to do that.
No, absolutely. Now, wrapping up, how can people follow you on social media, number one? And also, I took this from the factors, so going on the record, when I first approached you, what was your honest opinion of me, number one? And how do you feel about the interview?
Well, when I was first contacted by you and when I saw what you did, I thought, wow, wow. You know, one of my jobs is trying to teach people to do this if they have a voice and they want to get out there. And a lot of them have great messages, Keith, but you know what? They don't want to take the time to do this because they think they can't learn. I'm talking about people with college degrees or, you know, people that are representatives of companies and stuff, people that are in organizations, and they'll say, well, you know, it's too hard for me. I'm not going to learn. I thought, well, you know what? You put them all to shame because despite all your obstacles, you know what? You're a winner. You are a winner. You know what? I look at you as a truth seeker. I look at you as somebody that can really change the world because you have changed yourself. You know, you could be sitting there even more depressed and not doing anything and having lots of time on your hand. But you know what? You're doing something that you're great at. And I think that your show will be an inspiration to people, not just people with disabilities, but just everyday people. You know, this is what it takes. You're making a difference. So what's their excuse? They can make a difference. So that's what I thought of you when I first saw you. And people that want to contact me, they can go on Debra Jayne East on Facebook.
Yep, sorry.
That's okay. And my show name is Notes from the Underground. You can go find that page. If you want to email me, my email address is Debra Jayne East. Now that's spelled DebraJayne EAST@gmail.com. And I'll be glad to tell you where my shows are and answer any questions that they might have.
No, absolutely. Stay tuned for after show. I have a couple questions for you. But wrapping up, I just want to say it's a real honor and privilege to have you as a guest. And I just want to say thank you for your time.
You are most welcome, and thank you for having me.